Welcome to HoppiTV. I'm Hoppi Wimbush, founder of the Lammas Earth Centre, grounded spiritual teacher, intuitive healer, and lover of all things creative and natural. And as part of these beautiful interviews with people that are inspiring soulful living, I have with me today Anthony Thompson, who's an inspiration all of his own. He teaches from a place of source, from a place of the origins of our heart, of our being. And I want to have an enlightening, beautiful conversation with you about your work. So welcome from the Lammas Earth Centre, Anthony Thompson.
Thank you. It's great to be here in the greenhouse. Organic interviews.
Indeed, organic interviews, they're the best. And so tell us all a little bit about your work. Like, what is your mission here on Earth? What are you here to bring?
Well, for me, the mission, in terms of what I'm here to bring, it's changing time to time, but it's really, for me, about building conscious leaders that serve humanity. I'm very connected to a future that I believe in, that I can feel, that we're here to cause, that's happening as a natural part of our evolution. And that what's really needed right now is true divine leadership, people that are unafraid to actually fulfill what they're here to fulfill and embody what they're here to embody. So for me, the mission is twofold. There's my mission on a personal level of what I'm here to embody, that's between me and myself, and there's here my worldly mission, which is what I'm here to be a part of and be here to catalyze.
And so how do you do that? I mean, how do you do that? How do you help people embody conscious leadership? Like, where do you start with something like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, people will find their own calling into leadership, right? I believe this is a time where a lot of people are being called into leadership. That looks different for each of us, but there's a lot of people that are waking up to consciousness, that are waking up to, I can't just be a part of the ordinary ways, and even I can't just stay on the spiritual path forever. Like, there's something bigger that my heart is calling me into. And these are the people that I speak to. That seed is already there. I'm not generally looking for people to say, hey, this is what's happening in the world. How can I help? It's people that have already seen what's going on in the world and have already discovered what's in themselves. And they're like, wow, I recognize that I'm here to lead. I recognize that I'm here to influence. But there's a bridge between actually being able to live that. That step into leadership is a big one. And I went through the teething process of that to actually feel, oh, whoa, I'm a leader, and hold that space without creating separation. And so, yeah, it's walking people into embodying what they came here to embody.
So I heard something that you just said in that sentence, which is, seeing the state of the world as it is now, and this call to not just be spiritual, but to lead action, conscious action. Mm-hmm. So what do you see in the world? Like, what are you observing is happening in the world that is requiring conscious leaders to take action?
Big question.
Yeah, right.
Good question. So yeah, I love the first part, which is about conscious action, right? I met with a really cool guy in Amsterdam, and he said, now, our spiritual work is about inspired action. And I really agree with that. You can't just live inspired action. You can't just live an inner journey. They're hand in hand. They serve one another. Yeah. Right? So what I'm seeing in the world, at least, the part that I'm mostly connected to right now, is what we're invited to be as human beings, as a way of living, right? That's one side of the development, the evolution. The other is what structural shifts need to happen on the planet, such as creating eco-villages, other ways of governance. That is new, and I'm in the process of discovering more and more. But right now it's there's actually a new way of living that we're called to be, that is heart-centered, that is connected to who we truly are, that is saying yes to the calling of our heart and not the rationality of our mind, taking on completely new paradigms of living. So a lot of people in the world of waking up in consciousness, they live what I would feel or call as a half-time or a part-time spiritual reality, right? Which is that parts of their consciousness are still in conditioned ways of being, particularly around money and relating. They're now anchor points to not being able to fully embody a new way. And so the shift is complete embodiment of a new way, where that goes across all areas of our life, not just part-time.
Yeah.
So that's, again, my mission is to embody that for myself and then be able to feel, oh, this is actually what's happening collectively. That's what I'm here to serve at this moment.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it is such an incredible time to be alive, right? We're just being called into such things. Here I am, called to create an eco-village that resonates out with people all over the world, a center for conscious transformation and healing. Those are my callings. That's my leadership. That's what I step into. And, I often question myself, like, why am I doing this? And because it's not coming from my mind, it's like an embodied call to action that doesn't involve thinking about it. It involves showing up in service, like really showing up in service. And what comes into my mind when you're speaking is Bruce Parry. Actually, I interviewed him a little while ago. He's one of the most, prolific travelers of our time, and he's traveled to some of the remotest tribes on earth.
Wow.
And there's one tribe in particular that really, really resonated with him. They are the Panan, and they live in Papua New Guinea, right? And he said they have no ego. Like, they live in an egoless reality, which is quite revolutionary.
Can't imagine
right?
what that actually looks like.
You
have to get there firsthand.
Well, he said it was like living with a people who were just moving as one. And so I asked him, well, ego is in consciousness, so it must have arisen. I really want to know how it arose. And what did they do about that? Like, how did they deal with that? And he said, well, he never, ever saw it arising with the Panan, but there was one other tribe, and I can't remember the name of them. And they were very similar, but not quite as embodied as the Panan. And he said that there was one hunter who was he was prolific, very, very talented. In fact, he was the best hunter in the tribe. And he started to know that he was the best hunter. And he started to lord it over the others. And he started to, get really excited about the fact that he was the best hunter. And I asked him, well, how did they deal with that? And what they did was withdraw support. They refused to eat with him. They took his tools of hunting off him. They refused to give them back to him until he'd come back into alignment.
Beautiful.
Isn't that amazing?
So beautiful.
It's like, where are we giving our attention? Where do we give our attention? What do we give our attention to? And so when I hear you talking about what you're focusing on the essence, the truth within each and every one of us, and then invoking that to come alive within us so that we can lead into a new paradigm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what does that actually look like? So you've mentioned your own journey, but how are you going to be serving so that other people can connect with that? And what would the process of that be for people?
So for me, I break it down into 3 simple things that, to me, is what I'm checking in that I'm embodying, right? And if someone can measure themselves just against these 3 things, to me, that is encompassing all the spiritual journey, which is number 1, which is how I experience myself, which is how deeply am I connected to who I am as source and as my individual essence. How deeply am I connected to my inner knowing?
Beautiful.
So how loud is that? See, it's not a black and white question. It's not, am I connected? It's how connected. It's like if there's a volume dial, right? So we still have these kind of limited ways of thinking, yeah, I'm connected. I'm following my heart. But that's not the question. It's not, do you believe this or do you believe that? You believe them both. It's just where you turn to. So that's the first part, how I experience myself. The second is how I live or lead my life, which is basically how completely, fully, and authentically do I follow my heart? Because if we're really, really, really honest about what it would actually look like to live our heart's calling in every moment, how we relate, the things we do, the things we don't do, if we knew abundance, right? If we knew only success, if we knew we couldn't fail, if we knew we couldn't get it wrong, if we knew we couldn't do wrong by another, how do we authentically actually live then?
Yeah.
Only then can you get an accurate reference point. So that's the second one. How do I lead my life? And the third is, how do I show up in relationship to others, right? Which is how is creating a way of true authenticity and transparency. So my process with people, generally, I've done a lot of one-to-one work and group work, as you know. is about feeling in that person's life what is invited now, right? Because we all have an evolutionary blueprint, so we're always in a process of evolution. So it's I can generally sense and feel what someone is able to become, but then it's about feeling what's this chapter about, and what are they invited to stretch into, and then it's just about bridging that gap, right? So it's about getting them, how deeply are they ready to connect to who they truly are? When that's seen and cleared, the next question, right? What are you ready to step into physically in your life, right? That includes your relationships and your life's purpose. So for me, it's actually really simple. Like, you've experienced my work, right? There's no complexity to it. It's just about embodiment. It's just about getting really real with how strong's your connection, how strong's your inner knowing, and where are you not able or willing to follow the calling of your heart. And that's really, for me, it's just about aligning to this resonant stream of our life, where there's no resistance anymore. We just fall into the slipstream, right? And I've experienced what it is to live life at that speed. It's fast, but it's calm, you know? And that's beautiful. And I guess that's, what I'm calling people into through my work.
Yeah, there's kind of an effortless flow when there's a graceful pulling forward. It's almost like a choiceless choice. I mean, this is what I experience. It's like a choiceless choice. It's like the choice is being made for me that this is the next step. This is the next step. But that doesn't mean...
It's your higher intelligence, right? Yeah. So it's not... It's wow, I can feel that this step, I can actually feel that it's already chosen. Let me just have the humility and the courage to say yes to it.
And that doesn't mean that fear doesn't arise, or resistance doesn't arise, or, all different things that as a human being we experience. And so how... So do you find that you experience moments of terror, for example?
Yes, terror, definitely.
Yeah.
The journey of being able to say yes to the calling of your heart is also around, you're going to meet the edges of what you're comfortable with and where your own terrors lie. For me, my terrors are really mostly in three different things. It's the terror or the fear of being alone. It's the terror, the fear of being unsupported and being physically disabled. And the first two I've met a lot, largely in my relationship with following my heart and my relationship to money, And that's where I've met these feelings of being alone and being unsupported. And even recently, I've been exploring the fear of being physically disabled. And these are like terrors in my systems. When I sit in the experience of that, they're almost overwhelmingly intense. But they only come up as a part of moving. They don't come up for me to retract that something's gone wrong. And so, that also requires deep courage to sit in the people call it the fire, right, of your own feelings.
Absolutely. And so part of leadership then is to be really emotionally intelligent, like being able to experience the energy that's moving through you at any given time.
Yeah, that's at the heart of leadership. If you can't be connected to your own emotional world, you can't connect to others, and you can't connect and influence others either.
And I guess this is what you mean by being really authentic. It's like really real with exactly what's showing up, exactly as it's showing up in the moment.
You have to be able to assume, and this is hard. I've gone through a cycle of really, one of the biggest tests of this, that what is showing up is perfect. And that's where having support is obviously great when you're in a confusing time. I went through the most successful period of my life this year where everything was achieved, created with more success than ever before. Then I went through the hardest period on the other side of that, and that's been really confusing for me. And it's been hard for me to feel that that's actually a part of the same process, not separate to it because I've gone wrong.
Yeah, right. Because that's a belief that can arise, and actually it's not true. It's part of the unfolding of the trajectory.
Yep.
Which is the full range of human emotion. The full range, everything. The doubt, the confusion, the terror, the rage that I've fallen off my path, all of those beliefs and constructs that come up. Amazing.
Yeah, we got to befriend it. I don't have a journey as maybe deeply emotional as most people in terms of the really dense human emotions, the suffering. I said I haven't really experienced deep suffering, but I've experienced deep pain, a lot of deep pain. And yeah, you've got to learn to love it. You got to learn to embrace it 100% as equal part of this journey, because there's a perspective that you can find that you're just loving the juice of the journey. You're just loving the juice of the journey, the experience of the journey itself. Yeah.
So, what has been the most transformative time in your evolution to this date? Because you're pretty young, right? You know, and you've also experienced a huge amount in your life. So let's have a little look into this side of you, Anthony, and your journey up until this point. So when was the catalyzing moment when you woke up to this calling, and what was that like for you?
Well, it's been a process for me of, if I look back now, seeing the different patterns, there's catalyst, integration, which leads to embodiment of a new way of being. Then you're ready for another catalyst. Then you're ready for a period of integration of a new embodiment. Then you're ready for another catalyst.
Yeah.
So maybe there's been about 5 catalysts that I remember, and then a constant integration. Yeah.
Would you be willing to share your first one and what that was like for you? The first one!
Yeah.
Or the biggest one, you know, the one that was the most...
Yeah, I'll share the most. I feel that's more significant to me.
Yeah.
It was when I'd left to India. So I had, after I left university and went down the journey of discovering happiness through the world of psychology and the world of somewhat emotional intelligence, realizing you're not a victim to your thoughts, but actually you're the one who's controlling them, baby. You can focus on what you want and feel how you want. And I was like, wow, oh my God. You know, life changed in a couple of months. After some time, I met my mentor, and that's when I discovered presence and stillness, and my life was just filled with peace. And at some point, I knew I was here to serve. I knew I was here to serve humanity in a big way. But there was a deeper calling, which was to discover the truth. Which is, I just knew it. It was like cellular intelligence that I can help the world now, but there's so many questions I have unanswered, and it just feels ineffective to go and do everything I can. And so I just knew there was this journey of enlightenment. You know, I'd read about enlightenment. I read about the traditional ways of enlightenment going to India, so I decided I was going to India. It was the day after my 21st birthday. I let go of everything. I had a small red backpack, and I went there. And this pilgrimage that I was going to go on hadn't even started. Suzanne and I were just traveling together. That's my girlfriend. And I went for a 5-day silent retreat in Sri Lanka. And during these 5 days, it was like 5 days of fireworks in my body. It was like there was a couple of seeds planted that just clicked the fullness of my inner knowing. So loud, so clear, so unavoidable. The questions that led me on that journey, I received answers to, and I saw it wasn't just about realizing infinity. It was about being the expression of infinity. And the way you know what you're here to express of infinity is to fully 100% follow what's on your heart, and infinity will support that into life. And so this was a realization of, I don't need to go all the way back to find the source of creation. I am the source of creation, and I'm at the forefront of it. How does it want to move forward? It only knows through what my heart feels most excited about. And so at that time I was like, you know, I was like, wow, that changes the whole game. Let me ask myself, what do I actually want, right? And I was like, if there's no rules, you can't get it wrong. You can only get it right. You can't hurt another person, you know, you can't take from another person because there's only abundance. I was like, if I'm that real with myself, how do I want to live? And I was like, at that time I was living on like $75 a week between my girlfriend and I in India, budgeting everything, trying to make my money last a couple of years. And here I'm like, everything's possible. You're infinite. You know, circumstances reflect your past, not what's possible. I'm like, okay, I don't want to live like this, that's for sure. Crap, I don't even want to be in India. I want to be in Europe. All right, where did that come from? I want to live luxuriously. Oh God, where did that come from? I'm like, I want to start working with people again. All right, let's do that. So I went on this journey after that of, it was such a system upgrade. And I was invited to stretch so far beyond how I was currently operating in life, because I had a lot of beliefs of lack, particularly around money and rejection. And I decided to live. I put a blindfold over my bank account and I just focused on what I wanted. I knew I didn't need to look at my bank account. It was the scariest time of my entire life because I was stretching myself so far. This is what I mean. There was more fear than ever before, but there was more stretch. And this was a period of months of integration to actually feel more comfortable living more freely. And that for me was just such a big moment because it gave me the freedom to fully follow my heart. Before there was okay, I'll go in the direction, but let me find the right way to do things. You know, here I just committed, I'm going to follow my heart and do nothing inauthentic. And that was my commitment. I said, if I can show that all works out by living this way, that gives me a freedom for so long. And it's a permission slip for so many others to live this way. And that's been a big part of my journey. And that was a huge catalyst.
That's amazing. What a beautiful sharing. And so permission giving. It is a permission slip. Absolutely.
That's the biggest gift.
Yeah, completely.
The biggest gift.
I mean, how can you teach? How can you share unless it's the path you've walked yourself? You know?
Well, many don't. And I was one of them initially. Yeah, initially.
Yeah. And now there is an alignment. And as you're aligned, how did that begin to unfold? So you went back to Europe, you started to live a more luxurious thing, you had a blindfold on your bank account. What started to happen?
Yeah, so at first it was about doing what I love, which was actually still traveling. But you know, being with my girlfriend, we had a kind of fantasy of, you know, traveling around Europe, eating in our favorite vegan restaurants. And that was like, at that point, absolute luxurious to us. So we did that. And, you know, before I always struggled to generate clients for my coaching business because there was so much lack in my system. You know, I remember being so scared to even ask for exchange, you know, being able to value myself. And, you know, over the coming months, it was just effortless. I started to have great people come to me for coaching through only being authentic and sharing my journey on Facebook. And then I started to be paid what I actually wanted to be paid for. You know, this wasn't about going from zero to hero, but it was about how far can I stretch. And so it was beautiful. And in just a few, you know, very short months, I was in Europe, setting up a new home with a fully going business that I loved, working with only people that I loved in a completely authentic way to me, where I was earning more money than I needed for my lifestyle, right? And it was this beautiful thing because I was willing to lose all my money. I said, this is a big enough possible reality that I'd be willing to lose everything for it. And it was about, I think 8 months later, that I had double on my bank account what I had when I started this, but I'd spent more than any other period in my life. And there was something rich in that. There was a kind of a completion to at least one wavelength of that journey, being like, I've been doing this for 6 months. I've been committing to following my heart. I'd traveled to other parts of the world. I'd even been to the Virgin Islands in the USA and all around Europe and whatnot. And I was living in Prague, and it was great. And I was just like, wow. I looking back, I was like, man, I really committed. I really worked on my alignment with myself, and damn, this is a whole new reality that I couldn't have imagined when I started this in Sri Lanka, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so this alignment, heart-centered awareness, listening to your heart, letting your heart lead the way, all of life conspires.
All of life conspires. It's changed now from what do I want to what do I feel is invited. You know, so it's like asking a different question. And if I can feel something's invited, life can only conspire for that, because it's not coming from my mind. It's not like, what do I need? What do I want? It's just what's invited. It's the most pure question I think you can ask.
And so that kind of shifts then from living from my heart to living in service.
I mean, there's no difference, right? Living from my heart, living in service, it's all one. So if you are living from your heart, you are living in service to all.
So I have a confusion arising, which is what is being invited? What is being invited by life? So presumably then, when you ask that question, you're also checking in, does this feel good? Does this feel and ignite my heart?
Yeah,
so it's kind of like 2 in 1.
Yeah, it's at some point, it's the question's almost, you don't even need to ask it, because you know that what's invited is the most nourishing, exciting, expansive thing for you.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it was what feels exciting, because that's what I could get tuned in with, what truly feels exciting. And that was me accessing my higher guidance.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I'm open to all possibilities. I know that the adventure is given to me through following what's invited. So I just listen. You know, I was in Amsterdam this year for 4 months. Amazing. This was that period of success. And then after that, when it came to an end, I was saying, I'm an open book. There's all these options of where I could go, and I just said, what's invited? And I felt to go to the USA. And internally, I'm like, damn it. I really don't like going to the USA generally. But I knew that that's where the most growth was, the best people were, the most expansion was. Who am I to say no to that? Because I don't like it, right? And it was great. I loved it.
So I've still got a confusion here. So the confusion again is I didn't really want to go to the US, but I also knew that it would be the highest good for my growth.
Me not wanting to go to the US is my projection of what's going to happen because of the past.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Who am I to know what's going to happen this time?
Feeling arising that I'm supposed to be going to the US and letting the constructs fall away.
Exactly.
Okay, now I get it. Okay. And so what happened in the US? You went over there, and what was the call? What happened? What unfolded for you?
Well, this year in the US was... one was about getting connected to a new genre of people, I would call it. I'm
intrigued.
I've been connected to a certain group of people, a type of people, and going to the US was an invitation to just a whole different world of people. And so a big part of it was about the connections that formed. I was adventuring with a friend of mine, Elizabeth. We were going around together, staying in different amazing places. It was like... I made this series called Living from Source. You can see it on my website. And it was just, all I had was a ticket to California. And it was just, from when we arrived, this adventure unfolded. The people we'd stay with, they were just parties organized on the day we'd arrive. Or someone would send us this and we'd be with, amazing people. So it was just this kind of journey of, again, into the unknown. This chapter had just closed before in Amsterdam. That was, a big part of my mission, my life. And I was like, all right, let's go into the unknown. I have no idea what's going to happen. And watch. Again, magic. And then, there was that chapter in the US, and then it was a time for me to go into solitude. And that's when, for the first time in maybe 18 months, I really got a full dosage of myself with nature, and it was like a cleansing, just sitting in the trees and going back to simplicity, it was as much as what's native to me is to create. And so really it was like life was saying, that's not now, and that was hard for me to listen to that, because that's what's invited. I'm saying, I want to create, I want to do the biggest things, I want to do the most beautiful things. Life's like, you're in the trees, relax, walk, make food again, do the simple things. And it's hard for me to understand, it's like, all right, okay. And that's why I said, with this period that's also been a little bit challenging and confusing, is like, here's my natural creative urge, but that doesn't mean now's the time. That's still my own thinking, this is what's meant to happen. But if I'm truly sincere with my listening and feeling, it's like patience. And now I'm only just experiencing the new chapter that's manifesting. And it's in a more beautiful way than I could have imagined, right? I'm a part of this amazing project in the Netherlands, which is the Awakened Living Project. And I'm just about to start a company, right? A company for awake man and awake business. Again, in ways that I hadn't imagined. So that patience has actually shown that, hey.
And so it's really, when you say that you're listening both to the inner calling and also what's being reflected in your external world. So when you're sat with the trees and you're going, the thoughts in your head, I need to be creating, I want to be doing this, I want to be doing that. And life's going, no, you're here now. Yeah. There's trees. Relax, be with the trees. So again, it's a teaching in absolute presence and being with what is in the moment, right?
Yeah. It's this beautiful, it's like an internal, external dialogue, right? So if I feel like doing something and there's nothing in my world that I can feel is the next step in that regard, it's probably not natural. Yeah. For me, like I said, with the center that I'm at now, with the business that I'm running, the people for that were just there in right timing. And it was just like, there wasn't any effort, it's like, let me move my energies in that, and now my energy is totally activating through this, and there's a timing to it. And this was even the thing, with creating and my own creative process. It's this dance between, here's the vision I receive, here's the guidance I receive, let me take the actions that are most available to me right now, and let me see if the world is responding in accordance with that. And I would see that the right people, the right support would just show up as evidence of, hey, keep going.
Timings now.
Yeah, timings now.
Divine timing.
Divine timing.
In tune with what's arising within. And that is the listening. That's the signal that you're on track.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And this is what you're teaching people to align with.
Teaching people to align with, right? At first, there needs to be an activation and understanding, right? First, you got to get beyond your own mind, your own thought space, right? So that you can even cultivate listening. The question, what's invited, you have to be connected to yourself before you be able to feel that, right? You have to be silenced enough internally to be able to trust that, right? Because if your conditioning, this is why I talk about money and relationships, if your conditioning is stronger than your heart, you still won't be able to live it and trust it, right?
Absolutely.
So the dials have to be balanced out, right? That the inner world, the inner connection is so loud, so strong that becomes more real than the conditioning of the mind, right?
The stillness needs to be loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stillness, the connection.
Yeah.
Maybe I worded it wrong. But it's at some point, it's when you are present, when you are connected, the two voices just start to feel worlds apart, right? So at some point they feel a little bit vague. Sometimes the distinctions aren't clear, but the more connected you become and the amount of times you follow it and get more familiar with that inner dialogue, that inner truth, it's just like, they're just like completely different feelings. One eventually feels like sandpaper and you can't follow it, and one's just like this elegant tickling on your belly, How could you say no to that?
I know, right? It's like, honey, internal honey, dewdrops. Beautiful. And so tell me a little more about awakened man, was it? An awakened business?
Awake man.
Awake man,
business.
sorry. Awake man and awake business. So share a little bit about awake man for a start. So
2 days ago, I met with my friend Daniel, who is now my business partner, after we'd been conversing over Skype for some time around, hey, let's do something together. And we sat down and we just cleared the slate, meaning let's just drop in, let's feel into the foundation of what we're actually creating. What's the heart of it, right? Which is the purpose, right? Which is, what do we actually feel guided and moved by? And then we sat in and there was a synergy of creating conscious leadership in service to humanity. Boom, that's the absolute essence of it. Then as we just asked the questions that could lead to actually what are we creating, such as, well, what is conscious leadership? What is service to humanity? What actually is resonating here? We felt actually this is about men, right? And so just through this natural organic process of co-creation and sharing energy, there was, within a day, there was, a company created called Awake Man, all right? And that is about creating conscious leadership, conscious men in service to humanity. And if you go further with that, it's the path of divine leadership. It's about men that are in service to their heart, right? That are free of the conditioned ways of being a man. Just the warrior, right? And actually being a holistic man connected to his own divinity, his own sacred space, and actually living by heart-based principles instead of these very deeply ingrained ways of being a man. And our relationship to relationships and our relationship to money are such potent sources of destruction. It's very rare to meet truly embodied, heart-centered leaders and men that to me are a completely holistic expression. And so this vehicle, the most beautiful thing is it's our own source of embodiment. What we're inviting others into is what we're growing into, right? So Awake Man is a company that has the core intention of creating conscious men as leaders. Right.
And so, I mean, you've probably not got to this point yet, but is this going to be in the form of retreats that people come on where they can transform and they go through a process? Or is it one-to-one coaching? Like, how do you vision?
It's a combination.
Yeah.
Right. So at the first level of it is giving people an experience, a true experience of themselves, done through events, right? Done through bringing people together 50 to 100 guys at a time, even less, and giving them actually a taste of what it is to truly be in touch with themselves, right? And then it's about supporting them on their journey to actually restructuring their whole reality to be aligned with this. So it is a combination of using retreats, online programs, community, and coaching and mentorship as well. And then the other side of that is awake business. So actually working directly with business leaders that are already at charge. They've already got this charge to actually create something. They already have a lot of developed skills, but it's not completely holistic because it's not truly coming from source. It's still layered over my needs, my want for achievement, whatever, right? Things we can all understand and relate to, but this is now a time where, it's time to actually lead from the heart, 100%, It's easy to say it, but actually if you go put a magnifying glass in someone's life, it's pretty rare that you would ask the people they're 100% yes,
And so what is your vision? Let's project forward 30 years down the line.
That's a long way.
It's a long way, of course. And let's just imagine, please indulge me for a moment. If you could create consciously a new future, what would your heart most want to create? How would you see the changes that you're being a part of instigating? How would you see those changes being woven into a different future? What might that look like, feel like, smell like, taste like, sound like?
Feels wonderful. Feels alive. It feels... There's such an authenticity of love between people that you walk around, you meet someone, and there's no hesitance, there's no constricting, there's a acknowledging, there's a intuiting of how that person is, what their life's intention is, and the society is a harmonized ecosystem connecting people, the land, the economy, the business, the technology, working together. And the human beings are operating from a different level of consciousness. We've actually activated our dormant, you would call it our dormant DNA, right? We have no idea what the potential of the human being is. We have no idea the superpowers that are stored within here, And so I imagine that the human beings are actually completely tapped into as channels of quantum intelligence, which is meaning we are creating things we couldn't even comprehend. As far as my mind can stretch, if I want to imagine people flying, I'm like, yeah, okay, but there's so much that I can't comprehend about what it actually looks like once we have attained a state of true authenticity, love, living from the heart, getting rid of the dense things that keep us in such a limited threshold of evolution. It's a good start.
Absolutely. I'll certainly add to your vision. My vision is... most definitely where all life is flourishing and thriving and in a complete resonant harmonic where everyone can feel each other and feel if there's a true meeting or if there isn't, and just respect that with spacious flow, intelligent flow, intelligent direction that isn't my intelligence, it's the intelligence, Yeah, beautiful. Hooray. Let's create a way amazing world, huh?
We need some leaders.
That's what we do. We need the leaders.
We each matter. We each have a role in this. I think that's something hard for people to understand, is that we actually all have a unique role. We all have a unique role.
Well, this is something that I really sense as well. It's like if you are here in life, then you have a purpose. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how minuscule, apparently, in the construct of the mind, how minuscule that purpose may seem to be, or how enormous this purpose may seem to be. It is all part of the creative intelligence that's weaving itself through us.
Absolutely.
In life. And all we need to do is get out of the way.
Get out of the damn way.
Get out of the damn way.
Or love ourselves out of the way.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because you can't really get yourself out of the way. You can only let go. You can only love yourself. That needs to hold on to its constructs of trying achieving, needing to be a certain way. You can
Striving,
only love yourself so
efforting.
much until all you do is relax.
Yeah.
And then you actually feel who you are. You feel what you came here. You feel what you're passionate about.
Yeah. Yeah. Exciting. So exciting. Anthony, is there any final message that you would like to share? Is there anything that you want to, communicate to all these beautiful people that are tuning in, watching, and listening, and opening to this amazing time that we're alive?
Well, really, there's nothing new that can be communicated, right? But only in a different way, in a different message, and that's that what you are is so much more than you can ever know and experience, and that only in having that deep willingness to listen to what you truly want, to what your heart guides you into, and having the courage and the humility to live that no matter what fears arise, is the only way to actually truly discover that. And that's my wish, is really to see activated humans that just have that courage, that willingness, that humility to say yes. Just literally say, yes, I'm just going to go for this journey of the heart relentlessly, because the moment you commit to it, stay true to it, life shows up. And once you start seeing life show up, you know you're in a divine co-creation. You know that you're just being celebrated, amplified, loved every step of the way, And when we do that together, we just give permission for each other to do the same. And that is our gift.
Anthony Thompson, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Such a joy to talk to you.